TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. In a joint IDF and ISA operation overnight, the bodies of an elderly couple, 70-year-old Judi Lynn Weinstein and 72-year-old Gadi Haggai, were successfully recovered from the Gaza Strip. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserts Israel's resolve to rescue all of the 56 hostages who've endured 608 days in Hamas captivity. The United States vetoes a UN Security Council resolution aimed at forcing Israel to end its offensive against Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip. In a joint IDF and ISA operation overnight, the bodies of an elderly couple, 70-year-old Judi Lynn Weinstein and 72-year-old Gadi Haggai, were successfully recovered from the Gaza Strip after being held captive for 607 days since October 7th of 2023. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during an inauguration ceremony for a new hospital in the city of Beersheba, relayed the deep sorrow of Israel's citizens to the bereaved families, while further pledging to retrieve all of the remaining 56 hostages, both the living and the deceased, from Hamas captivity in the Gaza Strip.
אמש במבצע מיוחד של השב"כ וצה"ל,
In a special operation by the Shin Bet and the IDF overnight, we returned to Israel two dear abductees who were murdered and kidnapped on October 7th from kibbutz near Oz. Gadi Haggai and his wife Judi Lynn Weinstein, may their memory be blessed. Together with all citizens of Israel, we bow our heads in their memory and offer our condolences to their families. Since the beginning of the war, we have brought home 199 abductees, 48 of whom returned in special operations. We are determined to bring them all back, without exception, both the living and the deceased.
The IDF spokesperson's unit revealed that the rescue operation was conducted by IDF troops in coordination with the Intelligence Directorate and Special Forces, who operated in the southern town of Khan Yunis. Moreover, the operation was made possible as a result of precise intelligence provided by the Hostage Task Force, the Intelligence Directorate, and the ISA, or Shin Bet. Judi Lynn Weinstein, a citizen of the United States, Canada, and Israel, as well as her husband, who is a dual Israeli-American national, who were members of the kibbutz Nir Oz and were initially abducted from the kibbutz on October 7th of 2023 by Palestinian members of the Mujahideen terrorist organization, who subsequently murdered the couple in captivity during the month of December. The late Judi and Gadi were survived by their 4 children and 7 grandchildren. Meanwhile, at the United Nations headquarters in New York, the UN Security Council voted on a resolution that was put together by Slovenia, Guyana, and Algeria, and co-sponsored by Sierra Leone, Mozambique, South Korea, Japan, Ecuador, Malta, and Switzerland, calling for an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, and the immediate and unconditional lifting of all restrictions.
I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S 2025/353 please raise their hand? Those against? Abstentions? The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 0 abstention. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
It is important to highlight that 14 out of the 15 members of the Security Council voted in favor of the resolution, to include Russia, China, France, and Britain. Nevertheless, in light of the U.S. vote against it, the resolution failed to pass.
The U.S. opposition to this resolution should come as no surprise. It is unacceptable for what it does say. It is unacceptable for what it does not say. And it is unacceptable for the manner in which it has been advanced. The United States has been clear. We would not support any measure that fails to condemn Hamas and does not call for Hamas to disarm and leave Gaza. In recent months, Hamas has rejected numerous ceasefire proposals, including one over the weekend, that would provide a pathway to end this conflict and release the remaining 58 hostages. We cannot allow the Security Council to reward Hamas's intransigence. After all, it was Hamas who started this brutal conflict on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas perpetrated the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Hamas has sustained it ever since in a manner that threatens Israel's security and prolongs Palestinian anguish. It is Hamas that continues to threaten Israelis and puts Palestinian civilians in Gaza in harm's way every day, using them as human shields. They have brutally suppressed those brave enough to challenge its despotic rule.
Ambassador Shea continued by voicing outrage over the fact that the majority of the Security Council unyieldingly persist in their refusal to accept that the so-called bull is in Hamas's court in relation to prospects for an immediate ceasefire.
It is inexplicable that many members of this council still refuse to acknowledge that Hamas could end this conflict tomorrow by surrendering and laying down its arms. It is unconscionable that the UN still has not labeled and sanctioned Hamas as a terrorist organization. In addition to refusing once again to condemn Hamas for the cowardly and evil acts that set this brutal conflict into motion, this resolution contains other serious defects. The United States has taken the very clear position since this conflict began that Israel has a right to defend itself, which includes defeating Hamas and ensuring they are never again in a position to threaten Israel. In this regard, any product that undermines our close ally Israel's security is a non-starter. This resolution would undermine diplomatic efforts to reach a ceasefire that reflects the realities on the ground and emboldens Hamas. This resolution also draws false equivalence between Israel and Hamas, which is both wrong and dangerous. This resolution seeks an, and I quote, immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire, close quote, that would leave Hamas in a position to carry out future October 7th attacks, as it has promised. This resolution refuses to acknowledge the disastrous shortcomings of the prior method of aid delivery, which allowed Hamas to enrich itself at the expense of Palestinians and failed to get food and water to those who needed it most.
It comes with no surprise that the latest resolution, which was effectively spearheaded by Algiers, was a mere charade in an attempt to draw an American veto for propaganda purposes. However, in contrast to previous rounds, the United States called those responsible out for their blatant charade.
Colleagues, we've been clear that in order to move forward, Hamas and other terrorists must have no future in Gaza. Rather than push forward a resolution that unjustly rewards terrorism, undermines negotiations, and allows Tehran to continue fomenting instability, let's instead demand that Hamas surrender, disarm, and leave Gaza forever, for the sake of all the region's people. Moreover, we need to be perfectly clear. Performative actions in this council designed to draw a veto, as evidenced by the process of formulating this resolution, wherein there was no true negotiation, are harmful at a time when there is delicate diplomacy going on in the region to reach a ceasefire. Further, engaging in this performative process at a time when serious questions are being asked about the utility of the UN, its funding, and use of resources is shameful. This council should not be used in this way. This council must hold itself to a higher standard.
While Israel warmly welcomed the American veto of the resolution, Palestinian observer to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, utilized the public stage to spout more disinformation about the situation in the Gazan enclave and Israel's intentions vis-à-vis the terror-plagued territory. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. As ever, it is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge and 100% reliant on the donation of our viewers. Therefore, if you're blessed by the content of our programs, I would like to encourage you to donate. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Moreover, I'd like to also encourage you to pray for the hostages who've now endured 608 days in Hamas captivity. Pray also for the troops operating in the Gazan territory. And last but not least, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.